Hello, y'all. Thank you so much for being here today. Excited to give you an update on our efforts around our emergency declaration on homelessness. I'd say the most important update this week is what we're seeing already is that we know the strategies that we're using are working. And here's what we're seeing already. We have started expanding some services to encampments as we were preparing those folks to move into housing. We've seen already those services, both in the forms of added trash pickup and new bathroom access, have not only resulted in increased cleanliness and safety, but also an increase in unhoused neighbors being willing to take advantage of services. So we've seen already more than 26 individuals at these locations where we're offering services take advantage of additional opportunities. That's had some powerful stories in the form of one person who got connected to housing this week who has never been in housing in any of his adult life. This will be a first. We had a pregnant woman who was in an encampment. We were able to get out of the encampment and into a hotel unit where she'll have the support and safety that she needs. And so I think very excited about people taking advantage of shelter options, taking advantage of connections to benefits, openness to receive services. So that is good momentum. A couple of key other items we want to announce in terms of progress. I think we think about this as really a transition from planning to action. And we have the Emergency Operations Center running every day, more than 50 of our city employees down there. They've done some incredible work on planning, and now you'll see a lot of real action rollout and a couple of updates there. One is that we are putting out an RFP today that will start the opportunity to bring in the providers who will help us actually deliver these services. We've structured these RFPs different from some in the past, which is they are designed for smaller, local, community-based nonprofits to step in and provide those services. So we have them from everything from site operations to wraparound services to direct provision of services from community-based providers, all that will be based in this new application. So that's out. We do also want to announce we're excited about the acquisition formally of another hotel property. This is the Stay Inn, which will represent about 100 units of housing that we can add to help us meet this target. So very excited about progress there. I mentioned a little bit that we have done increased outreach both to unhoused neighbors as well as some of the increase in services. We now do have our first experiment with our bathroom service, which we've have put in place this week, and it has been very successful, both in terms of making sure people have regular access to the bathroom. So we've seen a decrease around human waste. We've also had regular supervision and oversight of that site, both from the unhoused neighbors themselves who've taken good care of it, and from DPD and others, including our vendor who's doing daily cleaning of that site to make sure it continues to be a resource both for folks that are unhoused and continues to be an addition to the neighborhood. So we see those all as positive steps. I did want to say about the Stay In acquisition, very grateful to Congresswoman DeGette. That's been part of a long-term partnership with both city and federal partners, but leveraged some key federal dollars that Congresswoman DeGette made available for that acquisition. So really grateful for our federal partnership on that one. I think those are the major items I want to update you on in terms of this week's developments. Then happy to jump in and take questions you may have on where we are now and where we're heading. Yes?
Can you talk about the nature of the RFP, what kinds of organizations or qualifications you're hoping to see for folks who fulfill that?
Sure, happy to. I don't know if Matt or Cole, if you want to jump in on this. Yeah.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Cole Chandler, Senior Advisor to Mayor Johnston for Homelessness Resolution. So the RFP that's available is for service providers to bid on operating and providing wraparound supportive services in micro communities. And so typically in the city and county of Denver, there's been only one organization that has worked in that space. We're excited about the opportunity to open this up and allow other nonprofit organizations to bid on it. We know that it's going to take a whole ecosystem of service providers to really scale this effort related to micro communities and to provide key wraparound supportive services. And so this RFP provides opportunity for multiple organizations to bid and also to look at the creation of kind of affinity group communities that might serve people from particular communities in a particular location in a way that's unique to their needs. And so that's what this opens up for, and we're excited to host a bidders conference today and see what kind of interest is out there in the community.
Do you have any idea of potentially how many organizations are eligible, and is it limited to just organizations in the city, or can they be out of state?
Yeah, so the RFP is open for anyone to bid. That would include Denver-based organizations as well as organizations that are not currently working in the city and county of Denver or even working in the state of Colorado. So it's wide open for anyone to bid on. There's no limit to the number of organizations. Basically, the target that we've put forward is operators that are willing to operate sites that serve 40 to 100 people, and we've noted that we're looking to create 7 to 10 micro communities, and so that's sort of the scale that we're looking at through this RFP.
Other questions? Yeah, Jim. Has there been any, I think you mentioned this previously, Mayor, a need for builders for micro communities. Is there any motion on an RFP, who's going to build the unit?
Thank you. We are also putting out an RFP for those units, for the construction of units, and we've talked to builders both in the city and around the city who are interested, and so we want to be able to open that up some way. We know we'll have small construction-based mom and pop organizations who want to participate. We also have the opportunity to have some of our larger scale organizations help. And I think what Cole was mentioning is this fits the design of how the services operate, which is we want to take what has been historically very concentrated services of large number of people in a small part of the city and actually decentralize those. So you have people in smaller communities spread out in different parts of the city with different kinds of providers who can provide different kind of support. So as you know, you could have a women or trans or non-binary focused community. You could have one that's focused on veterans. You could have one that's focused on couples or people with service pets. And we know each of those Denverites come with different sets of needs and different types of supports. And we have nonprofit groups with different kinds of expertise in that kind of support. So we think that the units may look different, the providers may look different, and the communities of Denverites may look different.
You haven't put out the RFP for construction yet. That's coming.
Hasn't gone out yet, but you'll see it soon. Definitely next update we'll have that out.
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Roughly, what's the dollar figure on these RFPs? For, do we know yet?
In terms of what the amount of the contract will be?
Exactly.
I think we're just asking right now for bids for services, but I don't know if you want to add in the context, Cole, on the amounts.
So we haven't attached a particular dollar amount. Basically, we're asking organizations to bid and let us know what it takes to serve these communities in the best way possible, and we'll go from there as we look to negotiate and contract for the services, but no particular dollar amount assigned per individual or per community at this point.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
And Mayor or Cole, where does the list of potential sites stand now when it comes to, determining which of that 197 are viable?
Yeah, you bet. We've been doing a lot of work on tightening and refining the list of potential sites. We've been working through all the city agencies from real estate to access to utilities to things that we know are all important. And we're working with City Council on those. What we know is we will have sites that are widely spread around the city. We'll have options in all of the City Council districts. And we're working with our partners in the Emergency Operations Center and with Council to get those released soon. So we're working on those now. And I think the criteria we've been focused on really is making sure that they have access to utilities, that they meet basic zoning and permitting criteria, that they have proximity to transit, they have proximity to food sources, and that we have some reasonable distance from schools, and that we have equitable distribution around the city. Those are the criteria we're looking at right now.
And only looking at publicly owned sites, or are private property owners coming forward?
No, we're very much looking at privately owned sites as well, and we're in conversations with private landowners. It's one of the reasons why we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes right now, is we don't obviously want to publicly release information about private landowner sites unless we've talked to them, gotten their feedback, and seen their openness. I will say the response from private landowners has been really encouraging and exciting. They want to be a part of the solution. People are reaching out to us daily to offer sites, and they're really excited about being able to see this, their land, be a proactive part of a long-term solution.
Do you have a timeline for when the first micro community might open?
We're still working on the idea of staging all of these transition of folks from being unhoused into housing by the end of the year. And so we're working with the Emergency Operations Center on what the sequencing of those might be. And as you can imagine, it requires aligning all of these variables at the same time, getting the supply chain of items built, getting the sites identified, getting them outfitted for utilities or other needs, being able to do intake with people to identify what their needs and preferences are, and then being able to connect to those people to those resources. So we're working on a spreadsheet of mapping all of those at the same time and figuring out which ones we think we can land earliest, which ones might take the longest based on their either permitting or rehab needs.
We have time for one more question.
Mayor, what is the value of doing these incremental updates once a week? Who are you trying to reach with these regular updates that you're providing?
I think the key is we know there's a great deal of interest around the city. We're still doing town halls almost every night, and the turnout continues to be incredible. We're 100 to 300 people each night, even though we're doing 5 to 6 to 8 of these a week at this point. And so I think there is a great deal of interest from Denver residents to know what's happening, how it's happening, what impact it will have in their neighborhood, what the potential costs could be, and what ways that they can help. Almost at every town hall, the last question I get from someone is, how can we help? What can we do to be a part of it? And so we've talked about 3 stages of public involvement in this. One is around outreach. Many of the people on our team and city employees will be doing direct outreach to people that are unhoused to be able to get the information we need. What are your needs? What's your current life circumstance? What kind of housing is the best fit for you? How can we get a hold of you to be able to connect you to a unit? When it comes time to move towards moving days, where we're helping people relocate from places where they're unsheltered into housing, we'll have volunteers and supporters to help us be able to either close down and clean up encampments that we're closing or open up and welcome people into new housing units. Excited to do that. And then we also want to have ongoing neighborhood partnerships around how we welcome people to their new neighborhoods. That can be everything from faith communities to nonprofits to neighbors who are helping connect them to resources or just open relationships. And so we are working to keep people informed on both what's happening in terms of the process and sequence and ways they can get directly involved for those people that aren't making it to the town halls. And I'll just say as a close, thank you so much for being here and for making the time. And I think what we see is a real sense of momentum. We have stakeholder groups from across the city. We have faith communities who are very excited to get engaged. We have business partners who are excited to get engaged. We have nonprofit providers who are ready to jump in and be able to offer these services and sites around the city. We have city council leaders and community leaders and neighborhood organizations who are saying, we want our neighbor to be part of the solution. And we want to have a real solution that focuses on getting people access to the services they need, to housing, to work, to mental health support, to addiction treatment. We're seeing already a real desire from the folks that are unhoused to believe that these services are coming, and a desire from neighborhoods to believe that we have a path to both get people housed and be able to get encampments closed and keep them closed in neighborhoods where we know that's been a real challenge. So we think this is a real positive sign of momentum on the road to success, and we're excited to stay at it, and we'll keep you updated in the weeks to come. Thank you all for being here.